Hello, everyone. Welcome to another expert conversation with me, Emmy, here in Self Publishing Made Simple. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with our expert today. She's actually one of our Get It Done Challenge members, and I'm really excited to hear about what she has to say about her book, her journey towards writing and publishing her book, and actually how she got there. But before we get into that, let me just give you a little bit of background about her. She is an empowerment coach, podcast host, speaker, and online course creator. She's passionate about contributing to the journey of others by supporting them to see results and experience more confidence and momentum in their lives. She has established herself as an expert over the course of her career as a clinical social worker that spanned over 20 years. She's the number one best-selling author of The Pebble in My Shoe, Live in the Power of Attention, Take Back Your Power, and Live in a Better Way, and a proud graduate of the Get It Done Challenge. So, without further ado, let's all welcome Michelle Perry. Hi, Michelle.
Yeah, I hear all the applause that's going on online.
Well, you know what? We are online. I should have had that sound effects here, but
That's okay. I hear it in my head.
I'm glad. Well, that's what, confidence is all about, and taking back power. And you are an expert in that. But Michelle, before we get into that, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into this area? Knowing that, you've been a clinical social worker for many years, how did you end up doing what you do now, writing your book, being a podcast host, speaker, and doing all this shebang online?
Yeah, I actually call myself a recovering clinical social worker because in the book, I talk about the event that sort of shaped my life that got me into social service and serving others and paying attention to others. And that was 20 years of my life. That was wonderful, except that I forgot to pay attention to myself. And so, what they call burnout or
Mm.
neglecting yourself, lack of self care, all of that happened. And I developed an autoimmune condition that I didn't understand, but my body was basically saying, pay attention to me or we're not going to function. And
Mm.
so in 2013, my husband said, I want you to reflect and think about if you've reached all your goals in the social service field. I had become a national consultant and an expert in the field, and I really had no other goals I wanted to reach. And I said, I can serve people in another way. And so I shifted and went into corporate America thinking I was going to get a break. I figured, if I'm on the phone with customers, no one's going to die. A child's not going to get hurt. It's
Mm.
not going to be that serious. And so what happened was I was able to shift my focus and really implement self-care and a lot of the strategies I talk about in my book, like gratitude and mindfulness and paying attention to myself for health and wellness. And what happened was my coworkers started to come to me for coaching. And
Mm.
without thinking, I was just doing it because that's what came natural to me. And then unsolicited, they started to pay me money. And I said, I like money. This is something new. I need to pay attention and figure out how to monetize this. And two of my coaching clients were podcasters. And so I got introduced to the world of podcasting,
Mm.
fell in love with it. And in 2019, I started my podcast. And this year, because of COVID, everyone's listening to podcasts and they're at home. And I started to network with the Zoom and go global and international, meeting people such as yourself. And the podcast has just taken off. And with that, I developed an online school and all the things. But meeting you actually was through the podcast, and you came on and
Yeah.
you talked about imposter syndrome. And after the show, we were just chatting, and you said, I think you have a book to write. I really want to support you and encourage you to write the book. And I sort of brushed you off and was like, oh, no, no,
It's
no.
just a fancy idea.
Exactly. But in my heart, I had always dreamed about becoming an author. And I was just, I had some fear around it, some doubt, didn't know how to do it, knew nothing about the self publishing world at all.
Mm.
And what you did was you followed up with me and you would, very in your very Emmy way, would very firmly but encouraging and supportively say, I really believe in you. I think you have a book to write. I'm here to support you. I have this challenge, try it out. I did the 3-day, I think it's a 3-day
To
challenge.
try it out, see if we gel.
Exactly. And that sort of introduced me to your style. And I was like, okay, she knows what she's talking about. And I joined the Self Publishing Made Simple group, and it's such a supportive community. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I can do this. And you kept following up with this little nudge. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And so you held that belief for me. And then I was able to join the June cohort of the Get It Done Challenge. And I mean, from there, it's just history. Number one international best-selling author is now a part of who I am because it's true. It's
Yes,
so
and
exciting.
I love this story of yours because you actually just go with the flow. You know, sometimes you plan something, you have different you have a path, and then suddenly you get diverted and you just go with it. You know, someone knocks on your door, you get a little prompt here and there, and you just go with it, and look where it took you. But I am surprised to hear that because I can see how you are an empowerment coach, but you still have these limiting beliefs. I can see that you were questioning whether you're good enough, whether you're capable of writing a book, but it's just all these little prompts that, yeah, go ahead, do it, and you got on with it, and here you are now with your number one best-selling book.
Yeah, sometimes I think we need people to hold the confidence and the belief for us until we can get there. And that's really what you did for me is you were holding that because I knew I had it in me. I was
Mm.
just, had to get through the fear and the doubt and, can I do it? Can I do it? Writing a book is a huge endeavor. And then thinking about getting to number one when you know nothing about self-publishing that's quite a feat. But you were able to be the bucket and hold that belief and that confidence and that positive affirmation for me until I could catch up and reach it. And then once I started taking action through the challenge, and I was like, wow, I really can do this. And then it
It
reinforced that.
reinforces it, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not just someone telling you, but you're actually seeing that you are doing it, and you're getting the results. But can I just ask, Michelle, when you first started, what were those thoughts in your head that, why didn't you start this before we met?
Well, I've always written and journaled, and I've always had stories. And I think there was a fear about being too vulnerable because I know, so my book is very much a how to guide, but it's also part memoir. And I
Mm.
expose a lot of, the foundation of who I am in this book. And that can be kind of scary to present that to the world because what will people say? What will people think? And I'm a pretty strong personality where I've gotten myself where I don't really mind the opinion of others so much, but it's still I'm human. So sometimes negative feedback and or constructive feedback can feel a little okay, that was interesting. And so I think some of those thoughts about, well, what will my family think because there's some
Mm.
family dynamics and patterns and just exposing more of who I really am in truth, which is part of my message too. And that's sort of what put me over is that I had to pay attention to the message that was coming in my life, the season and the timing, that this is the season and timing for this. But also I needed to live in truth and demonstrate all that I sort of preach and teach and talk about with my clients. I needed to be an example of that. And that was what
Mm.
sort of pushed me over the edge. But I think we all have those self doubts and that vulnerability, and not wanting to expose too much for fear of, opinion and whatnot. But it's worth it. The courage to do it is so worth it.
Yeah, I think it's very common for aspiring authors, especially for those who have been through some challenging times in their lives and they want to write a book to share their experience and to share their message that you can actually overcome these challenges. And that fear of judgment, that
Mm.
fear of what would my family say or what would, other people say, I see that all the time. And it does take a lot of courage to do it. And in your case, you actually got on with it, started writing. And while you were writing, how did you? What was the process like for you? Because from other authors, they say it's cathartic. It's or some authors they actually take a lot longer writing because it opens a can of worms. They still haven't really healed, and it's opening up old wounds. So in your case, what was the writing process like?
You know, it was really interesting. I fought your process for a little bit in the beginning. Like, I didn't want to do the outline. I was like, I know what I want to write. And I was firm on the title. I didn't want to do the keyword research.
I
And then I
remember.
said, yeah, I was sort of like that stubborn little toddler. And I said, you know, Michelle, you have to surrender to the expert. She knows what she's talking about. She has evidence, there's proof that her system works. You need to trust it. But I also had to explore why I was feeling that way and what was going on with me. And that was part of the story as well, because like you said, it's cathartic. And as I started writing and the words would just pour out, I realized this was part of where the fear was, is that I have to go back and face what I've come through and overcome. And what I realized is that I am so much stronger than I thought I was. And I had healed enough to be able to write about it, which is why this is the season for it. And so I wasn't giving myself enough credit. And so this was also a very empowering process, that as I would write, and I struggled some days where I only got maybe a couple hundred words out, but then it was like an explosion. I think one weekend I got like 8,000 words. And even you were like on the coaching
Wow.
call, you were like, oh my goodness, you
You
really,
just zoom
got
through
on with it.
it. Yeah.
So once I got
I
started, it was like a snowball. It just kept going.
Yeah, I remember you did struggle a little bit with scheduling issues. You know, there were just too many things going on, and to have to try to keep up with the challenge, and keep writing, and at the same time, because you have to go back to your experience and reflect. You know, it's not like it's just an information book. You know, if it is something that you just give information, like, factual stuff, it might be easier. But because you're also sharing a bit of yourself in your book, it's a different process. So yeah, you should actually give yourself credit for that. And with our coaching calls, when you actually make that progress, and everyone's like, yay,
It's
you're
so
you're moving
supportive. It's so
forward.
supportive and reinforcing too, because I fell behind in the challenge. And I remember showing up to the coaching calls and I wouldn't have anything to say because I was like 2 weeks behind everybody. But I just kept showing up. And I said, just show up, Michelle, do your best, show up. And before I knew it, I had caught up and I was right on track. And I was like, that's so cool. I actually did it. And it's just so reinforcing to have a community of people that are doing the same thing you're doing at the same time, to support you, because they really understand what you're going through. Even though we were writing about different
Mhm.
things, it was still, we were all in that process together.
Yeah, and then you were what I love about the Get It Done challenge, because for me, as the content course creator, facilitator, whatever you want to call it, I initially just have a course, like a self-paced course. I leave it there. The students can do it in their own time. And what I've noticed is they will buy it, park it, and that's the end of it. But what I love with the Get It Done challenge is I can actually see how my students are progressing. And with the June 2020 cohort, it was such a warm, supportive bunch of people just helping each other out. You were going through the journey together. And with me, as someone who's facilitating it, there were some challenges that I would never have thought would be challenging for people. So there were some students who were struggling with the outline. For me, the outline is easy. I know what I want to do. Writing the outline is easy. But because I am interacting with you guys, with the community, I can actually support you better, because some of the things that I find easy, I can see that, okay, they need extra support in this, and I was there to help you out. But in terms of your journey, Michelle, what do you think was the most challenging part of this self-publishing journey?
Hmm. I think just learning the whole self-publishing world, because I knew absolutely nothing, like zero, nada, nothing. But what I like about how you sort of dripped out the content is that with each unit each week, it was more information, and we would ask questions, or I would ask questions about, well, what about this and what about that? And you were like, just wait, we're on week 6, we're gonna get to week 10, just wait, it's coming, it's coming. And so learning to trust, I think, and surrender was the challenging part for me, to know that just show up, keep walking, and you will get everything you need and it will all work out. and then to actually see it happen, even though I was a little bit slower. And then I actually extended my launch. I'm still a rebel. But it's been really cool to watch your system work and then be consistent even after that first launch week. So trusting the process and surrendering, I think, was the hardest challenge, but one of the most rewarding things that I learned about myself in the process.
Yeah, I've noticed that, and you're not the only one. I mean, everybody's like, "Oh, how about this?" Or "What are we gonna do with the promos?" And they still haven't finished writing their book. And I would say, finish writing your book first, because unless you have a book to publish, there's
There's nothing to
nothing to
promo.
promote. Yeah, because
Exactly.
yeah, it can be so exciting, but it can be overwhelming and distracting as well. So I think it's really important to have that discipline to get the task done first before you move on to the next. Because for example, if you're working on the cover and you're unclear about your title, have to keep changing it over and over. It's counterproductive. So yeah, but you're not the only one, and I have to keep reminding everybody, just trust the process. It has to be one thing after another, and you'll get there in the end. And in your case, yes, you are a couple of weeks late, but you still made it. And the ones who actually finished on time were the early birds. They started
Ah,
way ahead of you. They had like months to think about their topic, just to explore. And then when we started, they were ready to go. So you
that
don't
makes a
be
lot of sense. That makes
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of sense.
Don't beat yourself up for that. Like for example, with Joyce, yeah, she joined us in June 2020. But if I remember correctly, she was an early bird in February.
That makes
So there
sense.
were some members who would join as an early bird, and that would give them just some chill time, just to explore what they want to write. So by the time we start the challenge, they are
They're
ready.
ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah,
That makes a
that's
lot of
right.
sense. That makes a lot of sense.
And what happens in the process is that those who are ready, they power through, and you can just see that they are making progress, and just trust that it could happen for you too.
And also
um
learn from them, because what I loved about the coaching calls was they were like Wendy and Josie, they were ahead, but I was
mm.
learning from their process. And then what you were doing is you were actually problem solving in the moment. And so I was learning by watching, and then I was getting your feedback as well in the moment. And then as you were sort of problem solving with other people, I was learning about things that I hadn't yet gotten to. But when I got there, I was like, oh wait, Emmy said this to Wendy. Let me tweak this and do that. And so I remembered the lessons, which was really helpful. So I like the fact that there were people at different stages in the process, even though we were all together, because you could learn about the things you don't know.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. All these unknown unknowns. Sometimes you can't really ask the question because you don't know you're supposed to ask it.
Exactly, exactly. And for me, I didn't know anything. So I didn't know what I didn't know. And this has been just such an eye-opening. But what I love about it is that it was not overwhelming. So even though in my head globally it's like, oh my gosh, writing a book, this big thing, but it was not an overwhelming process to walk it out, because it was step by step by step. And eventually by like week 7 you're like, oh, okay, I can see how these are building on each other.
Finally. Yeah, you have to do your keyword research first, create your outline, write your book, and then I've noticed with most of my students start to panic, or it starts to click like, ooh, the self-publishing mode. This is where it gets tricky, because for some
Yeah.
students it's the writing, that's the easy part. You know your stuff. But when it comes to the self-publishing bit, that's when it becomes, ooh, this is new territory. Okay, let's tread lightly.
And
Then
there's so much information out there that you almost get overwhelmed, like, well, this person does this and that person does this and this person says this, and you're like, this is way too much information. I don't know anything. What is a keyword? Who knows what that is? Who knew there were categories? Who knew you could add like, I had no idea. And so being able to have a group and a community that I could trust, a leader who knew what she was doing and could explain it, has been just invaluable. And now I know what to do going forward as well. And I did purchase the publisher rocket as well, which has been so helpful in keeping the book in the top 10. It has not dropped below top. I think it dropped to 6 once, but it's been in the
Yeah,
5
it's
and above the
yeah.
entire time.
Yeah, and is that one of the things that surprised you in the self-publishing process? Because what I've noticed is that students at the beginning they would challenge the keyword research, like, why do you have to do this? What did you find most surprising in the process?
The keywords that I thought were going to be high generating keywords were not. Those were
Yeah.
the ones with like 0 searches or like 2 searches. And the ones that I had no idea people were looking for, I was like, well, that's interesting. So I'm learning a lot about my community as well and what they're wanting, which helps me serve them better as well. So it's fascinating, just that whole keyword research, the category research. It's really interesting. And when I actually launched, after I think it was week 2, I realized the book was going in the wrong direction pretty quick. And I was like, what's going on? So I did some research and I actually updated my keywords, and it kept the book in the top 5 going forward.
Oh, wonderful. So you actually know what to do. You can troubleshoot. It's like, what's going on here? And
Exactly. And that's so empowering because I was like, I control the destiny of this book by what I take action on. And having that knowledge of keyword research and understanding what that means and how to sort of manipulate it is so cool.
well, you know what? When I first started self-publishing, that's actually what made me excited about it, because I used to write books like textbooks and research papers and worked with a traditional publisher. So I didn't do this stuff. I just wrote and sent it off to them. But when I realized that, oh goodness, I have to do my market research and keyword research, it actually helps you to understand what your audience actually needs. And what I've noticed in the community, in the self-publishing made simple community who don't do keyword research, they keep shifting their
Mm,
topic because they haven't really validated their ideas, and they keep shifting until they understand what their market really needs. So for us in the Get It Done Challenge, we do it from week one, and
yeah.
I don't let you progress until you clarify your keyword research and your outline. So at least you've gone through the process, you know what you're doing, and now you can just rinse repeat and do it again. And are you planning to write some more? Is that now that you have your number one best-selling book, what are you planning to do next?
Yeah, I want to just mention one other thing is that the other thing that really surprised me was that there's a strategy to writing and self-publishing a book, which I didn't realize. And now that I do know the strategy, I'm really excited because I'm working on the audiobook version. So that's coming in 2021, but I'm hoping before the end of the year to finish the workbook journal that's going to accompany the
The
book.
book.
So yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have a package now. Like I've been having conversations lately with our graduates. Everybody's publishing, getting to number one, and it's just so inspiring to hear what you want to do with it after. Because yeah, you got your number one best-selling book, but you're taking it and bringing it forward, having a workbook, having this package, and having your audiobook. So that's the next step for you.
Yeah, so the next, because people have been requesting the audio version, and being a podcaster using my voice, I think it'll really enhance what I've written. But also, a lot of the readers have been requesting like a journal or a workbook to go along with it because what I write about, gratitude, mindfulness, self-care, how to really walk in power in your life and live a life you want to get up for on a Monday morning. A lot of that is not just reading, but you have to
Do.
activate your
Yeah.
brain and the read write and implementing some of the strategies that I talk about. And so the journal just makes sense, and it's not a difficult thing to do now that I know the strategy and I've got my arsenal of tools from the Get It Done challenge. So I feel really excited, empowered, and confident to go forward and keep publishing, and see where it takes me.
Yeah, that's actually what I love. I mean, to be honest with you, if I just want to have a business, I could just have a done for you service. Like,
Yeah.
give me your stuff and I'll do it for you. But I actually prefer to facilitate the process, to go through the journey, and to teach my students how to do it, because you can actually rinse, repeat, move forward, and you can actually play with the strategy. The more experience that you have, then you can play around with the strategy in the future, and we can learn from each other in that way as the trends change.
Yeah.
In the future, we are building a community of number one best-selling authors, and we can all learn from each other.
See, it's the
Michelle,
gift that keeps on giving.
yeah, absolutely. Are you tying your book with your coaching practice? Like, how does this fit in the grand scheme of things in your business?
Oh yeah, this book is really the foundation of my coaching philosophy, and so it's almost like a taste of what my coaching style is, because my book, after the memoir portion, and I get sort of into more of the teaching mode where I'm infusing stories, but I'm more of into the teaching voice. You really get a sense of my style of coaching, and a lot of what I talk about is in my signature course as well. I have a signature course called the Butterfly Transformation, and a lot of the themes and topics are unpacked in the course. And so, including the links, and I put a discount code in the back of the book for my courses, so it all ties in really nicely together, because it's all the same sort of family of concepts and strategies and work that I'm putting out into the world. And it's really just who I am expanding to help others, to walk with others, to share the journey and help people find the empowerment in themselves, like you do. You empower us to tap into the author that's inside of us that we didn't even know was in there, and then how to bring it out and give the gift to the world. And so, yeah, it ties in beautifully with my overall business, Successful Diligence. It just fits right in there.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Oh, that's actually my purpose. Why I'm running the challenge, and why I actually do help most of the people that I attract in the community are so heart-centered. People who have a story to tell. They have this important message that they want to share, and they have this need, well, this passion to serve their audience in a meaningful way, and you are a clear example of this, and you are also using, taking your book to serve others, incorporating it in your business model, and I can see a brighter future for you with a whole lot of other publications in your belt, now that you know what you need to do.
Oh, I agree. I agree. And I want to say my husband, he works for UPS, which is in the distribution, physical manual labor, with a lot of rough and tough tumble type of men in that industry. And what's interesting is that he has been selling my book at work just by talking about it. And it's been
Mm.
encouraging a population I never would have been able to reach at first. I think that men are often underserved and not
Yeah.
thought about, when we think about, oh, mindfulness and gratitude. It's very feminine, that world, and coaching and all that. And so to be able to encourage and inspire men that I never would have known, never would have been able to reach, because when you hold your book, a
Yeah.
physical copy of your book, this is the coolest feeling, guys. I mean, there's nothing like this. It's like your baby. But he'll bring it to work and show people, and they can, look. And some people need that tactical sort of
to
experience.
touch it, and yeah.
Exactly. And then to know that I've encouraged these men, that, it's just such a blessing to know that what I say is always, we're all here for a purpose and a reason, and it's beyond ourselves. And we never know who's waiting to hear what we have to say. And it's been such a tangible reinforcement, this book and this process, of that principle. And I'm just so grateful that you listened and paid attention to your purpose and mission to get this challenge going, and that you're attracting the right type of people, because it's such a needed resource that is just really, it's the gift that keeps on giving, because you can't unknow something. And now
Mm.
that I know, I can just run with it and go. And I love that. And I've been referring people, and I think I've added almost 10 people to the group, because I'm
Yeah,
like,
I
you've got to
know.
meet my book mentor. Emee is Wonderful.
I love it, and I'm so thrilled. You know, every time a student actually publishes, and you know, the number one best-selling badge is just the icing on the cake for me. For me, when I see them actually fulfill that ambition, and especially if they are, because of the kind of people that I'm attracting, they are so passionate about their message. You know, they have this burning desire to serve. And when they are able to do that and reach their audience in a really personal way, because when you've written your book, you're almost like whispering the words, you know, to your readers. It's a really personal thing. It's just so wonderful to see so many of my students serving their audience and fulfilling their purpose as well.
But
Um,
Emmy, I have to tell you, the badge does make a difference. It is so cool. And not only the bestseller badge, but also the number one new release badges as well.
mm,
I mean, I reached, I think, in 5 different categories, number one new release, in addition to the number one bestseller. But I was also number one bestseller in 3 countries, in Canada,
yeah.
Australia, and United States, multiple times. Not just like once hit it and get the badge, but also it stayed there. And that is the coolest thing, just for a, self-indulgent vanity, I have these badges, I got the screenshots. Like, that's really cool too, and that's a part of it. And it's okay to embrace and celebrate that too, because that's part of, I think, doing
Oh yes,
it.
absolutely. Well, now you are a number one international best-selling author because you are. And I think when it comes to being on the bestseller list, it actually perpetuates more sales because you
Yeah.
are on the bestseller list. You know, sometimes people just go on the bestseller without any intention of searching for anything, and they see that book and they say, "Oh, you know, that's interesting. I'll get
It
that." So,
validates you,
yeah.
it ups your professionalism. And even in the podcast world, and I've gotten opportunities to go on shows that, who knows, I may have been able to, but having the number one international best-selling author Michelle Perry as a guest sounds really good.
Yeah, well, it's absolutely fantastic, and now your book also has reviews. You know, what has the feedback been like?
Oh my goodness, that has been, so the reviews, from people that I know in real life, is wonderful and so heartwarming and really appreciated. But when I started getting the stranger reviews, and they were 5-star and positive, and actually quoting specific parts of the book that they like, one person said, it was chapter 14, this, and I was like,
They've
wow, they
read
really
it.
read it. They read the book.
Yeah.
And chapter 14 is at the end because there's only 15 chapters. I think that was so deeply reinforcing and validating that I'm on the right path. I'm saying, what is true for me is also resonating with other people. And maybe they'll never buy a course, or they'll never, hopefully they'll listen to the podcast, that's free. But even if they never purchase anything else from me, just to know that I've touched someone's life with something I've said is tremendously rewarding, and a little bit overwhelming too, if I stay too long there. But it's so beautiful, and it's such an example of humans needing humans, and everybody having a unique message that somebody needs to hear. Even if it's only 1 or 2 people, someone needs to hear it.
Yes, and I have to say, because you are helping these people, and you know, they are feeling better about themselves, and they're being empowered, that empowerment could ripple. You know, they might improve their relationships, or their their work, and so on. So there is a ripple effect. You know, with you writing a book, you're improving your readers' self-confidence. You know, you're empowering people, and as a result they may be empowering other people, and that could just ripple on and on and on, and it's just a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, because you never know who knows who, number one. And so, one person that, reads the book and gets inspired and motivated by one strategy and implements that, finds success, could touch the life of so and so, who then knows so and so. You never know how large the ripple can get. And I don't like to think too much on that because I always focus on that one person. And you talk about that in the beginning of the challenge. Who are you writing to?
Mm,
Who
mm.
is going to read the book? Get a picture in your mind and really dig into who this person is and talk to them and write to them. But it is really cool that the impact that you can have with your message, your voice, and your book is just incredible. And it's, again, this is such a gift. And I'm so grateful for your tenacity and persistence and following up with me and believing when I didn't believe, because that really has given, it's really changed my whole sort of future outlook on what I can accomplish and what I can do. And that's just such a deep gift that I'm grateful for.
Well, when I hear that call, it's like Michelle, Michelle, Michelle. Call Michelle. I go for it because there is a reason. There is a reason for this. And if I could serve you and you serving others, it's just an absolute blessing, and it's such a, an amazing thing to witness. So Michelle, if you have any message for our members who might be having some self doubt. Maybe they're thinking they're not, maybe they feel like they're not good enough to write a book, or maybe they are scared, like in your case at the start, that you are scared that people might judge you or it might be too difficult and so on. What do you have to say to them?
I would say two things. Number one, let Emmy hold it for you. Let her be the confident, knowing that you can do it person, bucket. Um, let her hold that for you until you can catch up, because the reality is that you can do it, and nobody else's opinion really matters, because at the end of the day, they don't pay your bills. They're not going to be there at the end of your life. You have to walk with you for your whole life. And if someone else can walk with you and sort of be that Sherpa with that wisdom and knowledge and hold that confidence and belief for you, let Emmy be that person, because she's really good at it. And the second thing is just keep walking, keep showing up, and just keep doing it. Even if you write 2 words, even if you just think about it for that day and don't write anything, but you're thinking about it, your brain is working it out and problem solving. Just keep showing up and keep walking, and it will happen, and you will thank yourself. Your future self will thank you. I promise.
Oh, wonderful. That's beautiful, Michelle. Thank you very much for sharing with us with your journey. I know that, it's been a challenge, and you were so persistent. You just kept, as you've said, you just kept walking, and here you are now with your number one in international best-selling book, and I can see more publications in your portfolio as you keep moving forward. So, Michelle, if people want to connect with you, if they want to know more about what you do and what you can offer, where can they find you?
The best place is just successfuldiligence.com. That really has links to all the things. The podcast is on all podcast platforms, Successful Diligence. The school is Successful Diligence, but all the links and everything can be found at successfuldiligence.com, including a link to get a signed author copy if you want a signed author copy of the book.
Wow, amazing. Well, I'll leave the links in the description so it would be easier for people to connect with you, or just leave some comments. In the comment section, we are all in this community. Michelle is in this community, so you can also connect in that way. So, thanks again, Michelle, for sharing your journey with us, and thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll catch up again next time for another expert conversation with me, Emmy, here in Self Publishing Made Simple. Until then, take care, everyone, and bye for now. Bye. Bye.